Hello, my name's Jen Hassum. I'm the Executive Director of the Broadbent Institute. Thanks for joining with us today. And starting on my left, always, is Lizzy from the New York DSA, Saman from Progress Toronto, Arielle from the New York City DSA, and Will, campaign organizer from Manitoba, and of course, Brian Topp. So we're going to get things started here. And so the first question, I guess, is going to go to you, Lizzy. Tell us more about the New York City DSA. Who are you guys? What's the context here?
Hello, NDP Canada. Thank you so much for having us. So my name is Lizzy. I am an organizer with New York City DSA. We are the largest chapter of the largest socialist organization in the United States. We grew... We grew in large part after Bernie's 2016 presidential run. And just this year, we passed 10,000 members in the New York City chapter. And of course, we elected the Democratic primary candidate, soon-to-be mayor, Zoran Mamdani. But I want to emphasize that New York City DSA, of course, we have our 12 socialist elected officials, including AOC and our city council members and our state legislators. But we're, first and foremost, a group of organizers. And that is what we want to talk about today.
Thanks so much. And so over to you, Saman. Tell us more about Progress Toronto, right? And the work that you folks do.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. Good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today. So my name is Saman from Progress Toronto. We're a nonprofit advocacy organization located in the city of Toronto, and we're really focused. Yeah, you can see this beautiful image of our volunteers. So we are a small team, and we advocate and organize for a more progressive, just and affordable city, and more democratic city. And we focus on City Hall, but also the TDSB, so the local school board. And as you can imagine, that sometimes that does mean that we interact with other levels of government, especially the Ford government, who always tries to get his hands in Toronto, and especially the school boards, as we can see right now. So something that is the same everywhere across Ontario, in all municipalities, is that there are no parties at the municipal level. So Progress Toronto was really founded based on the idea that we build up these incredible campaigns, all this capacity, especially volunteer capacity and leadership, during campaigns, during electoral campaigns, and then right after the election, it just disappears because there's no organizational structure to kind of hold it all in place and to continue campaigning and canvassing and building power. So Progress Toronto was founded in 2018 to solve this problem, to take what we build during campaigns, electoral campaigns, and try to elect as many progressives as possible to win power, but then also to hold power accountable and build power in between elections. And we can kind of get into that as we go on today.
So, Arielle, we in Canada, we've been seeing these videos of Zoran Mamdani, all right? We've been seeing the polling, we've been cheering on Zoran, and we're all behind him. You've picked a video, let's have it play.
It is our responsibility to build power everywhere. Because there are so many incredible things that a mayor can do. And there are even more things that the people of this city can do. So I ask you also to join this organization. If you joined back when I first truly learned of it in 2017, or if you're joining it today, it's yours. So we are, by last count, 8 members away.
Why are the 8 members more?
So who would be willing? We have one over here. We have one over here. We have 1 over here. We have 5. We have 6. We have 7. We have 8. We have 9. We have 10. We have 11. We have 12. We have 13. 15 people. But truly, it is a joy to be here. And it is a joy to have built this with all of you. And it's going to continue to be a joy to win the city that we all deserve. Thank you so much.
So, I see what you've done here. He just signed up 10,000, or like the New York City DSA has signed up 10,000 members, and part of it is impressive, eh? And part of his leadership is to be like helping to build the organization. We're organizers in this room. We knew it was more than just cool videos. Take us behind like the work, the deep organizing work that has led to his rise.
Absolutely, and we love our videos and we love our video team, but you cannot win on videos alone, even though some centrists are now trying. So Zoran, right, he's just a guy, right? People talk about him as a generational political talent, and in many ways he is, but also in many ways that talent and that infrastructure was built over the past 7 years. So we first started working with Zoran in 2017. He was a volunteer, a field coordinator for Kader al-Yatim, one of the candidates we ran in that year. And over the years, we really developed our field organizing and field first strategy. And we really built that starting in 2018, which is the year that AOC was elected, but also the year we elected our first state legislator, Julia Salazar. And you can really see that campaign was managed by a wonderful comrade, Tasha Van Aken, who's now Zoran's field director. And she really honed this field, and that team really honed this field first strategy. If you look into that race, you will see all sorts of insane, like wild media stuff. And it ultimately didn't matter. We ultimately won because we knocked enough doors. We knocked 120,000 doors, and we had 2,000 volunteers in that state Senate race. And those are the numbers that we're looking at for every race that we're doing, even at the local level, right? Hundreds of volunteers, 100,000 doors. And we need huge amounts of volunteer infrastructure to scale that. So in a lot of campaigns, you have staff managing the canvassers, and that's just not going to work at that scale because we don't have the money to hire enough staff to manage that many canvassers. So we have this sort of interim level of leadership, the field lead, which we've innovated over the years. And the field leads are volunteers who are in charge of their canvass. They're confirming their volunteers. They're collecting the materials. They're leading a training. They're leading a debrief. They're the face of the campaign for many volunteers. And that is the structure that allows us to scale. So just to give an example, our state and local races, we're usually looking at somewhere between 700 and 2,000 volunteers, somewhere between 80,000 and 150,000 doors. For Zoran Mamdani, there's 60,000 volunteers, 600 field leads, and in the primary election, 1.6 million doors.
Holy crow.
And that's how we did it. And the other sort of thing that I'll just mention, I know I'm going a little long, is our commitment to expanding the electorate, right? So a lot of times when people run, they'll just focus on people who are really regular voters. For Zoran and a lot of our elections, we know that to win a socialist campaign, we need to tap voters who are just tired of both American political parties. So that includes talking to younger voters who have less, or who are less regular at going to the polls. In the Zoran campaign, many of our races targeting Muslim and South Asian voters who have been really underrepresented in New York City politics. So really trying to build out the electorate through this field game.
That's incredible. Okay, so Lizzy, thank you so much for agreeing to spill a truth. This is going to be a big truth. Lizzy, what did you think in the summer of 2024 when Zoran, you said we're at a picnic, we're at a park, and Zoran said, I think I want to run for mayor?
So, y'all, I am the eldest daughter of Korean immigrants, and I hate being wrong. In fact, I'm actually never wrong, you know? And I was really nervous when he announced his mayoral candidacy. And there were a lot of risks that we were facing. We not only jeopardized if he didn't come in second or third, we jeopardized our entire political project, all of the victories that we had gained over the past 7 years. And I know Zoran, I've known him since 2018. I volunteered on his assembly campaign. We first met when he was testifying against Amazon headquarters in our neighborhood. And I love him from the bottom of my heart. And still, I was nervous. And we democratically still decided to endorse him because we knew that we had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to contrast Zoran with the evil cartoon-like Eric Adams that was currently running New York City. Donald Trump had just, won his presidential election, and we needed a strong candidate to not only broadcast our agenda and really speak to the disaffection that was happening across the electorate, but also recruit more people into our organization so that we could become stronger. So ultimately, it was a political strategy that we decided to endorse and devote so many resources to his campaign. And I want to say, just echoing what Arielle has said, it was his experience as an organizer, it was his ability to talk to people and approach them, even folks who had voted for Trump in the 2016-2020 election, 2024 election. It was his ability to talk to them and really get to the heart of what people are going through, which is that there is an affordability crisis, there is a genocide happening, and that corporate Democrats are not providing solutions to what is the crisis, the poly-crisis of US capitalism and its impact on the working class. And so it was his ability as an organizer to talk to, and it was our message that we had cultivated over the years. And I am so happy to say, even as the eldest daughter of Korean immigrants, to say I was so wrong because I underestimated what people are hungry for. And people are hungry for a politics that is going to represent them, that is going to answer their deepest concerns, and also provide community in the face of fascism.
I can't agree more. They can't either. They can't either. I think there's so many of us who, in our communities, there are people who can just really connect, and you can look at the polling and be like, well, we're at 1% or 5% or whatever. Like, I think you said he was started at 1%. 1%. And to be like, well, maybe this isn't the time, maybe this isn't the turn. No, this level of crisis is the time. The time is now, and we can organize up, right? So, speaking of organizing up and underdogs, Will is so humble, but I'm going to embarrass you a bit here, Will. So Will has been the campaign manager or field organizer for 3 incredible, against all odds campaigns. In the Manitoba 2023, you took a riding that had never gone NDP. It had been a liberal stronghold for 26 years, and before that, just flipping back conservative liberal, right? Something that could not be done, right? And then in a by-election in Manitoba, in fact, the riding is called Tuxedo, isn't it, Will? Because it's for the rich. It's called Tuxedo. And the NDP had never won in Tuxedo. That is where the conservative leader was, because it's the safest conservative seat maybe, or one of them in Manitoba. And we won. And then we also won, I know, this one's even more incredible. A by-election in Spruce Woods, southern rural Manitoba. Like, in fact, it was described to me as rural Brandon, Manitoba, where the Conservatives would win by 70% of the vote. New Democrats have never won there. And remember, we formed government in Manitoba before, so never, ever won. And you and that campaign and WAB came within 70 votes. Let's watch the video.
What I said to Ray is when I was campaigning for leader, they were talking about a guy who 20 years ago came within 1,000 votes in this part of the province. Well, my friend, they are going to be talking about you for many years.
Yeah, so a big question facing us in Ontario is, we need to desperately form a government for working people in this province. And it's going to take doubling our seats and a couple more, just as in Manitoba, they needed to double their seats and grab a couple more. So you folks did it in Manitoba in 2023. And, tell us, what was the Manitoba approach?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. What's the Manitoba approach? Well, it's important that everyone understands their roles, right? And for us here, most of the people in this room, right, that's going to be canvassing. That's going to be going back to your riding association and getting your candidate search ready, as well as like getting that stuff going as early as you can. And then going out canvassing. Really, it's not rocket science. Just go out, just go out canvassing, and build from strength. Right. Go to your best areas first. Call your best lists first, and then go down from there. It wasn't anything super special that we did. We didn't reinvent the wheel or anything.
Well, one thing you reinvented is you told me that you nominated candidates 3 years ahead of the election.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, years ahead. So in River Heights, Mike Mraz, who's the current MLA there, he got nominated. Yeah, two and a half years before the election started, and everyone told him, "Why are you doing this? You got no chance. Why don't you run somewhere where you can win, right? And not this liberal stronghold." And he said, "No, I'm going to do this." And he went out every day and canvassed, and over the course of that time, he erased any advantage that liberal MLA had over 26 years. So really, just get out there and just knock on some doors and have some positive experiences with the people.
And what would you say to a riding association, because we have people from New York City DSA, Progress Toronto, but some of the ridings in which you've flipped are places that are more rural, that are more suburban, that are in which the NDP came third or fourth. Again, we form government in Manitoba, so places where we're coming third and fourth, that's really coming from behind. Because we can't have 6,000 volunteers in rural Brandon, but how do you attract sort of volunteers to go canvassing, and how do you do that kind of that work in these kinds of spaces? Well,
yeah. Well, I think it all starts with people understanding the assignment, right, and what we're trying to do. You need to have a positive space, but also a sense of urgency, right? We're on a mission here to win this campaign, and we're going to do that by knocking on doors, raising money, and doing our work. So
that's all good.
Yeah.
Well, we've got love for you in the room. So Arielle, give Will a round of applause. So Arielle, let's chat policy, communications from an organizer lens. What goes into some of the decisions around the kinds of policy that we've seen from the Zoran campaign?
Absolutely. So progressives often, when they run, they'll either do this 25-point list of things that are good ideas, or they'll do a sort of vibey, let's change our city type thing. And the first one, people's eyes glaze over, and the second one doesn't mean anything, particularly in a context where people are extremely, extremely disillusioned with politics and political leaders. So having a short list of things that are widely and deeply felt by voters, right? Freezing the rent, universal childcare, fast and free buses. I know my rent is too expensive. I know that my kids, it costs $20,000 to pay for daycare. And I know that when I'm trying to get somewhere on time, I'm waiting for the bus and it's 25 minutes away, right? We know this is something that we feel as New Yorkers and in our communities, and it's also something that is clear whether or not we've won it, right? Whether or not my rent goes up, I know whether or not that has happened. And so having those things that you can be accountable to is really important, having those things that are widely and deeply felt. It's easy for volunteers to remember. It's easy for voters to remember. But often also when we choose policies to run on, we're thinking about the other campaigns that we're running, because we're not just an electoral organization. So as an example, a couple of years ago, we were really pushing this very important labor and climate bill, and there were 2 committee chairs that were huge blocks. So we decided to primary both of them, and we decided to primary both of them with this labor and climate legislation as one of the core things that we were running on. We won one of those races, we lost one of them, but it put the fear of God into the legislature enough that we got it passed. And so we're doing that with climate, we're doing that with housing, and I'll just say it's also really important, even though Palestine wasn't one of the 3 things on Zoran's top 3 list, we would not have been able to have the volunteer excitement and engagement that we had without him being so steadfast on Palestine. People are so sick and tired of seeing, as you know, people are so sick and tired of seeing politicians cave on this issue. And so even if it's not something that the mayor of New York City can win for us, showing steadfastness communicates to voters, right, that you're going to be steadfast in the moments when it matters.
Yeah. So we're going to throw up a video of Zoran in his clearest and most steadfastest.
Mr. Cuomo, I have never had to resign in disgrace. I have never cut Medicaid. I have never stolen hundreds of millions of dollars from the MTA. I have never hounded the 13 women who credibly accused me of sexual harassment. I have never sued for their gynecological records, and I have never done those things because I am not you, Mr. Cuomo. And furthermore, the name is Mamdani, M-A-M-D-A-N-I. You should learn how to say it.
Holy smokes! So we're just going to throw up a picture here. Saman. So, in the far screen, we can see Progress Toronto's comparisons between, you've got your own Andrew Cuomo looming above some of the work you're doing with John Tory in the picture.
Yeah, no matter how many times a conservative resigns in disgrace, they'll always want to come back. And you see that both in New York City and in Toronto, where they're bored. I don't understand how, because they must have so much money to go and relax somewhere, but they just have, they are beholden to a lot of interests that want them in power.
So basically, same kind of question to you. Because here in Ontario, we have work to do. And how do you, I know in our sort of space, how would a riding association be picking issues to canvass on? How does Progress Toronto pick issues to canvass on?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that sometimes what we have to, we're very strategic with how we make these decisions. Obviously, we're a very small team, and there are almost an infinite number of issues that we can choose from in terms of there isn't a limit to how many issues people in Toronto care about. There's obviously affordability, there's transit, there's road safety, there's just safety in general. So how do we pick? So at Progress Toronto, we try to answer a couple of questions. It's one, strategically, where do we want to grow? Right? So in what areas in the city do we need to grow to be able to flip them in the next election? We try to make sure that our issues resonate with our key demographics. So we run issues that people in Scarborough care about. We run issues that people in North York care about, and Etobicoke, because oftentimes, and this is something that happens a lot with progressives, is we forget, or maybe we focus too much on the urban progressive profile, and we forget about the folks who live in the suburbs. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and as someone who personally actually ran for the ONDP in a suburban area.
Willowdale.
Yeah, Willowdale. And I know that feeling of being in the inner suburbs and feeling hey, we're getting left behind. So Progress Toronto really does run issues that people care about. So we think about if one, where making sure we pick issues that people all over the city care about. 2, strategically, where are we building to make sure we can flip those seats in the future or hold those seats in the future. 3, we do have a progressive mayor right now, right? Mayor Olivia Chow, which is great.
Yes.
Who Progress Toronto helped elect. And in the last election, we also flipped 5 seats. But that doesn't mean that we have a progressive majority on city council. So we think about strategically who we need to put pressure on, put the fear of God in them to make sure that if we have legislation that we want to have passed at City Hall, be it, affordable housing, making sure that there's more money in transit, et cetera, that they feel motivated to do that. So we put pressure on the mushy middle, as what we like to call it. And so in terms of riding associations and picking issues, I would say pick the easiest, like the things that people care about. You don't need to be, what can help you build the list, build the volunteer excitement, make it easy for people to communicate. What issues can you run that as many people as possible can read that issue and say, hey, I care about affordable housing, I care about my transit working, let me just hop on and sign up for a canvas, and then level them up to the more complicated things. But I think sometimes we do want to have all the boxes checked off before we pick what issue we want to campaign on. But I think that those tactical questions are really important.
Absolutely. Yeah. People are feeling the vibe. There's lots of clapping. It's so good. So sort of like next sort of part of the conversation here, when we do good work, we're going to get attacked, right? And all of us, have been in different ways. So, Will, I'm going to flip over to you, and we're going to put an image on a screen of some sad conservatives they're complaining that the government announced that a road would be fixed, and that Premier Canoe talked about it on Instagram. So, Will, when this happens and, your opponents are leveling these kinds of complaints in the middle of a by-election, how does that affect your by-election? How do you deal with this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think it's, I would say it depends on the type of attack. I think something like this, when this happened, this seemed like really bad politics on the Conservatives' part, because I had we had multiple of our own volunteers come in and be like, "What is this? The Conservatives hate roads. They don't want us to pave it. They're against it."
The Conservatives they don't want the government to fix the road?
No, definitely not. No, and so I think it's really just a good reminder that everything we do. Whether we respond to the attack or don't, should really be put through the frame of how do regular people feel about this? What do they think when they see that? Right? Like that graphic that was up there. I think regular people just their eyes kind of glaze over, and they're like, okay, one side wants to pave the roads, the other doesn't. So I think. For everyone here, and it's always good to keep this in mind, that we all live in a bubble, right? We're way more political. Everyone in this room is way more political than the average person, right? And so it's always good just sometimes you got to pull yourself by your shirt up a little bit and just give yourself a little shake and just see how does a regular person feel about this? How would a regular person feel if we responded to this attack or not, right? So.
Yeah, and so, Arielle, the hammer that is coming down, the attack hammer that is coming down on Zoran, and that he's facing so many attacks on so many fronts. Just, honest question, how do you handle it, and what's the strategy?
Yeah, I mean, our candidates, including Zoran, are attacked in just absolutely disgusting ways all of the time, and it's really, really horrible, and it's an enormous thing that we ask our comrades to do, to step into this public space. I think it's really critical that we're always fighting on the terrain that we know that we can win. So if Andrew Cuomo wanted to make this election, and Eric Adams wanted to make this election about crime, that's not our winning terrain, even though we have better answers on crime than our opponents. Our winning terrain this year was affordability. So really, really sharp message discipline, always coming back to affordability, always coming back to the issues where we know we're stronger, and we know we're stronger with voters. Also tactics that are borrowed from our siblings in the labor movement, inoculation, right? In the same way union organizers inoculating workers against stuff that might be coming down from the bosses, we're inoculating voters early against attacks that will be coming against our candidates. So one important example this year was because Zeran stands up for Palestine and because he's a Muslim man, we knew that he was going to be called anti-Semitic all the time, right? So organizing early with Jewish comrades and organizations to inoculate against that early on before Cuomo went up on TV saying that. And now, right, our biggest threats, our biggest attacks are coming from Trump and the far right. And it's just really, really critical in this moment that we are very, very brave, that we take big swings, that we are bold, and that we do not concede in advance, right? We know that they're coming for us. Yeah. We know Trump wants to denaturalize Iran. We know they want to pull funding from New York City. We know they want to send in the National Guard. And we have to be big. We have to be mass. As an example, earlier this week, all of our socialists in office, all of our elected officials were arrested trying to conduct an inspection of ICE detention in New York City. They tried to get in to ensure that people being held in detention, illegally held in detention, were being held in humane conditions. And they were all arrested, and many of them are facing federal charges.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to spill another truth. Like, you were arrested too.
That's true. Please don't put that on social media until I get back into the United States.
I'm sorry.
Or any of that, really.
We would love for you to stay here and organize. No, please do not.
But yeah, the Democratic Party has conceded, right? And there's two paths forward, and there's the reason the thing, it's either socialism or barbarism. It's not liberalism or barbarism. And
it isn't. It isn't.
So we just have got to take big swings. I mean, everyone everywhere has got to take big swings rather than being scared.
That's right. We have to shoot our shot in this moment. So we have about 8 minutes left, so 2 minutes each over to our panelists, and then Brian's going to give a sort of final conclusion. So we're going to start, we're just going to start with a little bit about volunteers. How do we keep volunteers coming back? So in 2 minutes, Lizzy, if someone signs up, and we'll just put the image up, if someone's joining the New York City DSA online, what happens next?
Yeah, I want to emphasize two things about volunteer management and making people excited about being a socialist and being in the organization is leadership development and recreating social connection and community because people are feeling so alienated in this current moment. And so I just want to say, every time somebody signs up, we encourage them to join an onboarding meeting called DSA 101. People will be directly placed into a working group or to their branch so that they can actually join. And then that branch and working group has their own onboarding system one-on-one so that they can be plugged into the organizing space and given leadership positions and roles so that they are continuously doing things. Activity breeds activity, and we cannot forget that as organizers. The second thing I want to emphasize is community. I mean, I've organized so many socialist speed dating events just because we wanted to keep it flirty and cute. We have biking groups, we have coffee with comrades. So just keeping it active, even if not everyone can be a dedicated organizer, but everyone can go grab coffee and feel like they're part of the organization.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. One of the things that Ed told me, prior to his passing, he said, we've got to get back to the CCF picnics. I heard a yes. Arielle, I can't believe the sheer number of DSA members and the work that you've been able to do in New York City. It shocked me to learn that you only have 2 staff members. All of that they've built. 2 staff members. Tell us more about how you're therefore able to have this kind of infrastructure.
Absolutely, and neither Lizzy nor I are the staff members. So yeah, I mean, with the canvassing culture, everybody canvasses. The people who have elected leadership roles in our organization canvass, our elected officials canvass, our candidates canvass. In fact, you cannot participate in certain parts of our endorsement process unless you have canvassed, and it's just something everyone does. It does not matter if you like it or not. Yes. Lots of people don't, and we do it anyway. As Lizzy talked about, creating this welcoming culture, right, particularly, inside and outside of canvassing. I'll say, I ran one of our local campaigns last year. It was really important to me that we had an office with a backyard so we could grill after the canvasses to keep people coming back and feeling connected to each other, the organization, and our political project. And we're a democratic organization, which means that we vote on who we endorse, right? All of our members vote on who we endorse. And we have strategic conversations about that, and it's understood that if you are voting to endorse a candidate, you are committing to canvass for that candidate. Yes. And that is a huge part of what we do. And it's all of our investment in ourselves and our future, right? This is our investment in our future, and that's why we're here together.
So, Saman, we're going to just throw up an angry photo of you. So, the media in Toronto, Progress Toronto isn't their favorite. And so what we see here, you've certainly pissed off the conservatives in the town. And I'm just wondering, what's your thinking behind it? Why are they so fixated on Progress Toronto?
Yeah, this is taken right after we won, we defeated Anthony Furey, who's a really Yeah. There are no Anthony Furys in this room, that's for sure, and that's why I'm here. Anthony Furey is an incredibly right-wing, he used to be a writer for the Toronto Sun and no longer is. Anyway, so we defeated him despite him having polling really high at the beginning. And also we've heard that Doug Ford's conservatives were knocking doors for him as well. So it was a really big defeat to the conservatives. And I think that they thought, the conservatives and the right wing thought that Progress Toronto's victories were aberrations. They were just flukes. But then when we defeated Anthony Furey, someone that they had put a lot of energy behind to elect, they're like, wait, hold on. The 5 city councilors you elected in 2022, the 6 TDSB trustees, and then Mayor Chow, that was just a fluke. But this, now we know that your power is real. So now they're all scrambling to create all these offshoots, what we call them, Timu brand Progress Toronto.
Timu right-wing Progress Toronto.
Yeah. And to recruit our work, but they can't, because where we get our power from is actually our volunteers. They can't, so there's, in the Toronto Sun article, they're like, we know they have dark money. Who's funding them? Is it? And then, these Timu brands are is it George Soros? George Soros does not fund us, but if he does want to, we'll accept a donation. I'm kidding. But yeah, so they can't imagine the reason why we win is actually because of our incredible base of volunteers, thousands of them, our incredible lead volunteers, a couple who I saw here today and last night. So the reality, shout out to them. Yeah. And they can't imagine that a third-party municipal campaign has an incredibly low budget. Just in the by-election campaigns, we only can spend $8,000. What does $8,000 buy you? Not a whole lot, but it buys you a lot if you have hundreds of volunteers who are going to be coming to the office to count paper flyers that you printed off the office printer, not anything fancy, cut them, count them, deliver them to a canvassing site, and then do the canvassing themselves. So that's the kind of power we have, and they can't imagine. Some conservatives can't imagine that we win because people are thousands of people across our city are animated by the possibility of better, and all they know are ad campaigns, and that's where our power comes from, and that's why they're so scared, and that's why they can't understand it.
They can't understand it at all. $8,000 couldn't buy you a conservative consultant to cut paper, right?
Yeah.
So, Will, over to you. You told me that the Alberta NDP 2023 was the best field you've ever seen, and the Alberta NDP came within 1,500 votes of not having Danielle Smith as premier and forming a majority government. So just tell us, like, what were they doing to get such high contact rates?
Yeah, well, again, not reinventing the wheel, of course, but I would say in Alberta, just quickly on Alberta, like the New Democrats in Alberta, because of the just the nastiness of the Conservatives, obviously Danielle Smith, they're so impassioned to win, right? And so I think that was a big help, a big help. And actually I think the riding with the most, the highest contact in Alberta wasn't in one of the cities, one of the big cities. It was actually, I think, Banff, Kananaskis had the most marks, right? And they didn't have a huge team. They maybe had, I don't know, a great candidate, great core team, and maybe 10 or 15 volunteers. They had some really dedicated phone callers, and that's really it. Just kind of putting the pedal to the metal and getting out there and canvassing.
That's right, especially in these places. A core group of 10 or 15 people can make a huge difference. Huge difference. So for the last of the panelists, and then we're going to move over to Brian for the final concluding thoughts. Lizzy, it doesn't end after the right. It's not going to end after election day for the mayoral race. So, like, what comes next?
Yeah, we won a decisive victory for the Democratic primary, and now we have a mandate to actually deliver our demands. We have a mandate to freeze the rent. We have a mandate to for fast and free buses, and we have a mandate for universal childcare. So the next step is actually us not sleeping, probably. We're going to be fighting to ensure that Zoran can govern. We're also going to be recruiting the 60,000 volunteers into our organization so that they can also be leaders and leading campaigns to win a lot of this funding that might be cut from Donald Trump and win this funding at the state level in order so that we can actually deliver our demands. And so the work continues, and I just want to encourage everybody in this room to keep going, and solidarity forever.
Thank you so much for coming. And so Brian, like, this has been just a really great, incredible, like, discussion. What you've just been such a long time NDP strategist. What are some of your thoughts and reflections?
So I'm going to I'm going to sneak in a shout out to some people who are not here on the stage, and then I'm going to do a second shout out to the people who are on the stage, and then I'm going to answer that question. So here's a shout out for some people you don't see up here, but I'm sneaking it in. Okay, I am sneaking this in. My colleagues on the Ontario NDP Election Planning Committee thought that they were getting together with 3 years to prepare a next campaign, and then they ended up having 3 months to scramble to respond to Doug Ford grabbing Donald Trump's election to do a snap election. I just want to thank them for sticking with that job and for helping us put together the campaign that we did. We had a great election planning committee. And then I want to thank this panel and you, Jen, for pointing to the campaign of our dreams that we're going to run next time. And look, you do learn a few things when you do a few of these, and one of them was well put, I think, after the Manitoba election, when Wab Kinew handed the Tory premier her head in a debate in the nicest possible way. Kind of like that debate clip that we were just looking there, which is an awesome debate clip. And as a pretty thoughtful columnist said, people listen with their eyes. They watched the debate, and then what they saw was what they ended up deciding how to vote. People listen with their eyes. And the second thing is what people remember is how you made them feel. And how this panel makes me feel is full of hope. And so, He's a soft-spoken Westerner, our friend Will here. I don't think you know how radical what he's talking about us is for what's happened in Western Canadian politics in the last 20 years. What he's talking about is how the NDP, in places where we have had a very hard time winning for a very hard time, came out of our fortresses, beat the Tories where we had an even break, and now we're in the hunt for them in their former fortresses with people who haven't voted us for 30 or 40 years. And we came within, 70 votes of planting them in one of their core seats. And you know the reason why is because the people who live in those seats are just working people like there are working people everywhere else. And we just haven't been there talking to them for a long time, and now we are. And when we do that kind of work that he's talking about, then we win there. We can do that here. That fills me with hope.
Thank you so much. And let's...
And one more thing.
One more, okay.
Progress Toronto, taking the fight to the enemy. That's how we win. Excellent job. And that our sisters from New York City show what a campaign of joy looks like when you're on, that you put it together and then you're on a roll and then you win and then you get to govern and then you get to make a hell of a difference because winning was worth it. So I leave this panel full of hope and thinking this is the job we have before us. Thank you. Back to you, Jen.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And thank you to our panelists. Thank you so much for joining us. And come find us and ask any questions, although one of us is leaving, Saman, because she's going to lead a canvas this afternoon in Scarborough. But come find us with your questions during the lunch.
Thank you.